ready? Okay. I'd like to call to order the August 18th, 2025 regular board meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. If everyone who's able could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us this evening, both those here in person and those joining remotely from home. The board held an executive session prior to this meeting regarding personnel and legal matters, PHRC case number 2024-00050. Board members, with an agenda before you, are there any changes? All right, seeing none, I'd like to call on the board secretary to conduct a roll call of board members.
Dr. Anderson?
Here.
Dr. Bader?
Here.
Dr. Barlow?
Here.
Dr. Buck?
Here.
Dr. Dino?
Here.
Ms. Huff?
Here.
Dr. Miller?
Here.
Thank you. We're going to start off with some communications. Mr. Johnson has a superintendent update.
Thank you, Amy. Last week, the Pennsylvania Department of Education approved our school reconfiguration plan, meaning we now officially have a Delta Middle School and a Delta High School. This is very exciting news, and I want to express my sincerest gratitude to all the individuals who worked so hard to make this happen. We are looking forward to a great year and what are now our Delta schools. This morning, we had our induction for all new faculty on Wednesday. We will bring all faculty and staff together for our opening day celebration. And of course, next week on Tuesday, our students will begin the 25-26 school year. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all of our new employees and students. I wish you all the best as you begin your SCASD journeys. Lastly, I welcome the new kindergartners. The class of 2038. Have a great year, everyone. So, 2038.
That's a startling number. Okay. And I thought it was startling when my kids were kindergartners, and now they're seniors this year. So it goes fast. Enjoy it. We have a student representative not with us this evening, and of course, being the end of summer, we don't really have much student updates tonight either. So Jackie, do you have anything legislative you'd like to share?
There's still no budget. So last week, the Senate did send a proposal over to the House, which the House promptly ignored, in much in the same way the Senate ignored the House proposal. This is going to start impacting at the county level pretty quickly. Especially nonprofit groups who work at the county level to provide social services to members of our community. So that's where we'll start seeing this problem crop up first, where the counties are not going to be getting the funding that they need to sustain the work that they do. It could start impacting schools in Pennsylvania pretty quickly as well. We're sitting in a pretty good situation compared to most other school districts, and I'll defer questions to Randy. You're welcome. But we still have no budget. So hopefully next time we meet, I can say we have a budget.
All right. I think in my time on the board, well, I can't even think of when it actually was on time, but I know one year we had it particularly late, but I'm not sure if it was quite this late.
2015.
Was it 2015? Yeah. So I hope it doesn't get quite that icky. Next up, we have Center Region Council of Governments liaison. Gretchen, I know you're online. Do you or Peter have anything?
I do.
Peter has something. Gretchen, do you have something as well? All right. Well, I'm not hearing her. You want to start, Peter?
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little bit more detail about the solar power purchase agreement from last meeting. So, if that's all right?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
yeah. So the contracts with Prospect 14 have all been signed and returned. Direct Energy NRG, the retailer, has signed one of the 3 documents and is in process of signing the other 2 for all members. So there are 10 members. The Center County Solar Group Steering Committee, the coordinators, which I'm a member of, are meeting bi-weekly with Prospect 14 and Green Sky to review the current status and the project's next steps. Currently, there is no information available, because this is one of those questions, to suggest that the project will not meet its October 2026 deadline. There are executive orders. There are reductions in both the time and the scale of tax credits, which could impact the developer. However, we have not yet received any word from the developer related to our project to suggest that it would sunset. The first meeting of the Center County Solar Working Group is tentatively scheduled for September 24th at 8:30 a.m. at the State College Area School District Panorama Village Administrative Center in the boardroom. More details about the meeting will follow.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Gretchen, you have something to add as well? Okay, we'll give her a second. Sure, yeah. Okay. Let's get through the next section, Gretchen, and I'll check with you before we start the consent agenda. So up next, we have time for public comment. Each individual will be allotted up to 3 minutes for items related to board business that are not a consent or action item this evening. Those items, public comment will be held just prior to voting on them. I think we have one person already signed up in advance or who's online, so we're going to start there this evening. Judd Matthews, if you want to unmute yourself, and you can, if you give your name and, well, we know your name, but where you reside in the district, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks first for the opportunity to speak. My name is Judd Matthews. I'm a parent of 2 kids in the district, both students in the high school. And I'd like to comment on the proposed revisions to the field trip policy, and in particular, the proposed change to exclude seniors from the graduated seniors from the possibility of participating in international and only international travel. And my comments from the perspective of a parent of children who have been on an international field trip through the district, as someone who has been a chaperone on an international field trip in the district, and also as a lawyer and law professor with an interest in risk regulation. I think it's important to realize that the seniors who take part in these programs, I'm speaking in particular with reference to my experience with the high school's choir, jazz band, and orchestra trip to Italy. The seniors who take part in those trips just following their graduation have been working with those groups through the semester, in some cases longer than the semester, working on the material that they are carrying out past our borders as part of the culmination of their academic experience. And to have them not participate in that trip impacts not only those graduated seniors, but the experience for the other students as well, because the students have been working together across all 4 grades for an extended period of time. And many of those seniors will have been occupying key leadership positions. That's true in the musical context, which I'm familiar with, and I'm sure it's true for other kinds of trips as well. I'm curious about the exclusion applying only to international travel. I'm sure more will be explained about that. I wonder if perhaps it's because the age to legally drink alcohol outside the U.S. Is 18 in many places, and that would mean some graduating seniors could legally drink. I don't see why that would matter, because as a matter of district policy, the district can and has conditioned participation in these trips on no student or graduate participant drinking, and can back that up with the sanction that students can be sent home if they don't follow the policy, which can be effective. And again, just having come back from this trip, there was no problem communicating that message effectively to all the student participants. And the last thing I'll say is I know it's appropriate. Human Resources is doing their job when they're looking to reduce risk. The board's job, as I understand it, is to take an all things considered approach to what the best policies for our students are. And in my judgment, it seems that the benefits from the existing policy are in a better relation to the risks than under the new proposal.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
your time.
Thanks. Do we have anyone here okay, we'll alternate. Do we have anyone here in person who's interested in making a public comment? Okay, we have another online individual. Donna Korzik. Donna, if you want to unmute yourself and share where you reside in the district, you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. My name is Donna Korzik, and I reside in the Borough of State College. I have a rising senior who is a member of the marching band, the symphonic band, and the jazz band. And just like the previous speaker, I too would like to speak on the policy change, the pending policy change, and ask the board to consider allowing the current policy to continue and allow graduating seniors to participate in these international trips. I echo everything that Judd said, and I also have the same perspective, which was informed by serving as the chaperone this summer on the 2-week trip to Italy that involved our jazz band, our master singers, and the string orchestra. You know, the obvious impact on performance is obvious, right? We wouldn't allow football champions to avoid a championship because, you know, they were graduating seniors. We would want, you know, our full team on the field. My apologies for the sport analogy. But Judd also really did a nice job of characterizing the intangibles. Our directors are amazing, our music program directors. They're great directors, and they have cultivated leadership qualities in our children over the years. And the ensembles would not be the same. There'd be a leadership vacuum that would occur because of the loss of our seniors. And, you know, what happens is magic. They have this secret recipe and the secret sauce, and it involves all levels. And I would just strongly encourage you to all serve as a chaperone on one of these international trips before you make a final decision on the policy. Again, they are great kids. They're great directors. And we are lucky to have these students, especially our graduating seniors who have worked so hard and invested so much in our music programs. We are lucky to have them represent us internationally. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do one more check of anyone in person. Are there any additional people online who are here to make a public comment this evening? No. Okay, then that concludes public comment for tonight. I'm going to check back in and see if we've gotten Gretchen back on the line. Gretchen?
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. You have an update from
Oh,
COG?
good. I actually do not have a COG update, but I just wanted to make sure that you could hear me. So thanks.
Yeah, that is important, and I'm glad that you did that. So now we've got you all online with us. Thanks. All right. Then we're going to move on to our consent agenda, which includes several items that we address in a single motion for approval. To facilitate questions, we're going to go through each category individually. Board members, if you have questions or need clarification, please raise your hand and let me know. Any corrections to the minutes? Okay. In operations, we've got some athletic sponsorships, a number of agreements for renewal, an MOU with Penn State for Constitution Day to be held at the Delta Program Building, or Delta School, excuse me. Old habits die hard. And a number of new human resources appointments as we enter the new school year. Any changes, questions in this area? Yeah, Peter?
I would like to make a comment at the end that is about H, Penn State MOU for Constitution Day.
Sure. Before we vote?
Yep.
Okay. Instructional programs, as usual, student travel and an intervention programming purchase. Any questions on these items? All right. And last category is policies. There's a number of technical policies that we reviewed at a previous meeting, and also our suicide awareness, prevention, and response policy that's gone through a couple different iterations. Any questions or last corrections in these? Okay. Then I'd like to call for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So motion first, and then,
Have so moved.
okay, that's been moved and seconded. There's some additional comments that we'll take from Peter.
Yes. 105 years ago, today, do you know what happened? The 19th Amendment was adopted.
Thank you.
And because of that, 6 members of this board are able to vote. We have 2 women who are the president and vice president of this board of directors. And I think that's really special. It's also, I think, needed to be said and celebrated because there are people with access to the White House who believe that women should not be able to vote. They have said this publicly. I find that unacceptable. And I would hope that in whatever influence we have on this programming, we can encourage the celebration of the 19th Amendment. That's all.
Thanks. At least in all the time Gretchen and I have been here, ending our 10th year, we have been, I think, we've been a female majority board, ironically. So, and one of the few in the state, or at least, yeah. Anyway, just a little add-on. So, thanks, Peter. Do we have any public comment on the consent agenda? No. Okay. Board members, those in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is passed. So I'd like to call on Mr. Johnson to say a few words about our HR report.
I would like to take a moment to recognize Hope Palm as the new assistant principal for the Virtual Academy. She comes to us from Mount Union, where she currently serves as the junior high school principal. Her knowledge and leadership will be a valuable asset to our district, and we look forward to working with her in this role. While Hope couldn't be with us in person this evening, I would like to congratulate her on joining the SCASD community. Congratulations, Hope.
Thanks. So next we're going to move on to action items for this evening. There's a couple items, the previous agenda, things that were moved out of consent. So we're going to start off with agenda item 10A as a motion to approve a renewal agreement with Accordion Education Solutions as shown in attachment 10A.
Have so moved.
Demo second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Are there questions then on this item? Aaron, I believe you had some.
Yeah, so this was one of the items that I had asked to move into action because I would like just more information about what this is a contract for, and a little bit more information about Dr. Jonathan Klingeman's role in that, because I know he used to be with the district and he is not here anymore. So just curious, like what the services are, what the and what the money is going towards in that contract.
So I can answer that. For about the last, it's on. I'm just see when I get too close. So, as you know, in June I asked to have Jonathan Klingeman work with us when we were in between MTSS directors that also oversee federal programs. And I am the oversight person as the assistant superintendent for federal programs. It's pretty massive. And with a transition of Jonathan leaving, a new person coming on, that person leaving, we contracted with Jonathan. During that time, that rule shifted, that we changed that rule a little bit. It became a different level, and really it's the oversight of federal programs and doing some curriculum work. Heather Spots was hired in that. What happened is everything was delayed when all of the federal programs were pulled back. We originally were allowed to submit that application for Title I. And then, of course, about 2 weeks ago, I think it was the last board meeting, we were given approval to submit for 2, 3, and 4. The applications are very tedious. When I had Jonathan, I need to tell you that he had it under control. It has played a very large part in my time. Heather is doing a beautiful job, but because I was off of it for a while, I really needed Jonathan's expertise to continue to move through. The reason we're asking to keep him on for additional time as a mentor is just due to some of the shifts, and to really be able to understand federal programs, and knowing that there could be major changes again in January as we go through what is going to happen to Title I, II, III, and IV funding. We ask if he could just stay on for his experience to help with those application processes. So that is really his role in this. We will not use him in other capacities except for really that federal guidelines and all of the applications. We will receive feedback on the federal monitoring we went through. I'm waiting for that. I submitted everything by July 26th to determine if we will be in corrective action this year. We're waiting to hear that too, but he could potentially help a little bit with that as well.
Also, I think it's important to note that when we hire new administrators, we try to have an overlap with the prior administrator who's leaving so that they can learn. In this situation, Heather has no access to a prior administrator, and it would have been Jonathan she would be asking for, so that's why this contract.
Okay, good answer.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, I'm guessing no other questions before you run off. That's okay. I think that was the main one. Thanks. All right. If no other questions on this item, do we have any public comment? Okay. Board members in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that item is passed. And I've been told that there's some issues with our broadcast on television tonight. CNET is working with Comcast, and so it seems we may not be live broadcasted tonight on TV, but there'll certainly be recordings after the fact. So just make that little announcement. We're going to move on to agenda item 10B. This is a motion to approve a renewal agreement with Standing Stone. This is shown in attachment 10B.
Miller so moved.
Huff second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. I believe there were some questions on this item.
Yeah, I just had questions about, originally it was questions about the term of the contract, the number of years. It looks like we're going from a 3-year contract to a 5-year contract. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so I guess I wasn't here when we initially started working with Standing Stone. Do you have information about how much, on average, we're paying them annually? Not off the top of your
Don't have that in my head.
That's fine, yeah. Is this something, maybe this is more of a question for administration generally, are there other companies and organizations who do this kind of work in the area, or is Standing Stone really the only contractor?
So Standing Stone was the only contractor at the time that we were able to secure and become aware of. They, we came upon them because we had a need to switch companies that we had been working with, and they had come pretty highly recommended from some of the law enforcement professionals that we work with here in the area. I know that Standing Stone does work in the area with other organizations larger than us and smaller than us, and we've been very pleased. Our largest difficulty has been just getting the right number of staff each and every day, and that's why we've put into the agreement an incentive for them to meet their required number of hours on a daily basis, so that we can encourage them along. And they have assured me that all of that incentive money that they receive will go back directly to their employees. It will not stay within the company, and they have short-term and long-term incentive plans that they would be putting in place for their employees.
Okay.
I think there was a company prior to Stand and Stone, but they were unable to meet our needs, and I think they eventually fell under.
I believe that's correct, too.
Yeah, the name is on the tip of my tongue and I can't.
St. Moritz.
That's right. They did a lot more security, like for other things, as opposed to schools. Whereas I know when we started with Standing Stone, you know, they made the commitment to do all the additional trainings.
Correct.
To meet school requirements.
And their owner was actually a school board member at one time.
Ah,
So he has a connection to the school world.
I guess one of the reasons I asked this to be pulled, in addition to it being a fairly long contract, not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, I noticed that the prior contract had already expired. And this is something that I sort of hope moving forward, maybe we'll be able to talk about the upcoming contract, just in case we, you know, if there are community questions about Standing Stone and what they do, and because I've had questions like that from community members before, or if there's, if this is an opportunity to put it out to bid, if we can identify other companies, it might be something that, unfortunately, because school starts in a week, it's a little difficult for us to go through that process now. But that would kind of be, for these kinds of contracts, I think that would kind of be a request. That we
The
can,
negotiation has been ongoing since prior to the expiration of the last contract, but just getting connected with the owner and across my desk, it has taken too long, I will admit that. But we are also not aware of any other companies that would have been able to fulfill our unique needs, as well as the service they provided. Back when they started with us 3 years ago, there was no way, shape, or form they were providing the level of service that they are today.
Okay.
The number of personnel that they're providing today, even though it sometimes doesn't meet all of our needs, we had no one at the middle school, we had no one at Delta, and we had probably half of what we're using at the high school. And it's not, it's just, it's a large building, and we have growing and unique needs that are helping to manage the flow in the high school operations.
and we've also added coverage for events on occasions. to some
Absolutely.
extent, Yeah.
I just really appreciate the idea of the incentive payment, because the more you can fill those spots, it reduces stress on administrators and teachers, and so that is money well spent. So just want to say thanks for that.
And I appreciate the creativity of using them for the vacancy. Randy let me know that the reason in the contract it mentions Pew and Allen Street is because that's where we've typically had crossing guards, which we have been unable to fill them. We work in concert with the borough to do that, and they have not been able to fill them, so we've been able to ask Standing Stone to cover those needs to keep kids safe who are walking. So, did I see a question on this side? Okay. All set? All right. Seeing no further questions, is there any public comment on the Standing Stone Agreement renewal? No. Okay, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That item is passed. Agenda item 10C is a motion to approve a change order to the Mount Nittany Elementary School addition. This is shown in attachment 10C.
So moved. Demo second.
That's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion on this item for Mr. Fisher? Okay. It's pretty straightforward. Thanks. Any public comment on this item? No. All right. Board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yeah. Gretchen, are you still there? I just want to make sure we have enough. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yes, I'm still here and
Okay.
I've been voting yes. Yep.
Okay, great. I just, a board member stepped out to use the restroom, I think, and I just want to make sure we had an adequate number of votes there, because anyway. So that item is passed. We'll move on to agenda item 10D. It's a motion to approve a change order for the physical plant building, shown in attachment 10D.
Hafsa moved.
Miller second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion on this change order? Any public comment? Board members in favor, please say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, that item is passed. Agenda item 10E is a motion to approve a 2025-2026-01 agreement. There is no attachment for this agenda item.
Buck, so moved.
Demo second.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded. Any final questions? Any public comment on this item? Okay, board members in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item is passed, and that completes our action items for this evening. Up next, we have information reports. We're going to start out with Mike Fisher. Randy Brown. Is Jeff joining us remotely? Jeff Straub's here remotely from Crabtree. And you're all going to provide us an update on the Park Forest Middle School project. Good evening, Jeff. Are you with us tonight?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. I thought I'd test you out while Mr. Fisher gets set up with his presentation.
I didn't know if I should say hello or
That's
just
okay.
let Mike start off.
All right.
All right, Jeff, we're ready.
Okay. This evening, we have really 3 items to discuss with you. On slide number 1, really, we're going to talk about tennis courts, some traffic lights, and construction management, and really open it up then to questions anybody would have. On slide 1, you can just see the overall current site plan for Park Forest. There's been some small modifications to what all of you have seen in the past. And if we move to slide 2. And this is just a zooming in on the one sector of the site. Really, the majority of the site has not changed much from what we've all discussed previously. There's been some small adjustments for turning radiuses and things like that in parking lots. Really, the focus for this evening is we have been able to make some adjustments to accommodate. I think previously, we've looked at 2 tennis courts, 3 tennis courts, and with some of the input from the public and discussions, we are able to accommodate 4. I would note it looks like there might be room for more, but what you're not seeing on this this image is there's also a lot of grading and slope in that general vicinity. So it was really a challenge for the civil engineer ELA to accommodate those 4 tennis courts, but we have made that adjustment for the project. Okay. Next slide, we're going to just go back to the overall site plan, and this is more just a general topic. There has been a lot of discussion about incorporating traffic light related to the project. But what we are seeing is with the initial traffic counts, there's going to be a lot of back and forth with PennDOT and the township for that traffic light to potentially happen in the future. And because of that, it's going to be on a longer approval process than the main project. And I would note this is very similar to something essentially the same thing happened at the high school, where we separated out the traffic light from the main body of the project, and once the approval process occurred during construction, then it was implemented. So we're looking to go through the same process with Park Forest that we did on the high school. Okay. The next series of slides, 4, 5, and 6, just a general discussion about construction management, and really open it up for any questions that you might have this evening. In the past, on the high school, the 3 elementary schools, we had construction management involved with those projects. But the district recently, and this is just an aerial photo of the Mount Nittany project currently under construction, both your physical plant as well as Mount Nittany did not have construction management services as part of the project. And that was really because of the scale of the projects. The physical plant project essentially was wrapping up as Mount Nittany occurred. A couple things, both the scale of physical plant and Mount Nittany are much smaller than Park Forest. And even with the 3 elementaries that we did, part of the reason that the district had construction management was you had both the high school as well as 3 elementary schools and a field project occurring at the same time. So it's both what is the district currently managing as well as the scale. And so for the Park Forest project, just because of the size, essentially you're talking about 275,000 square foot new middle school. We are recommending a construction management firm, and we are preparing the RFP right now for release. We've had quite a number of firms reaching out and are planning to submit as soon as we release that. And so just in general, the construction manager will be responsible for daily on-site management, coordination. Some of those have been really borne by your operations department on the recent projects, but to have them manage an entire new middle school would really tax your facilities department beyond its current capacity. So sort of managing daily on-site contractors, coordinating with the design team, facilities staff, maintaining schedule, quality control, management are some of the services they'll be including. If you go to slide 5, Mike. Typically, the support staff will include a project manager, along with site supervision, is what we've seen on recent projects with the district. As I mentioned, this is going to reduce man hours for SCASD physical plant so that the focus can be really more on your facilities throughout the district and not just the construction. They'll be responsible for helping coordinate inspections on a regular basis, whether it be Center Region Code, inspection companies, whether it be the soils, steel, HVAC systems, that those are occurring regularly throughout the construction project and are documented. Coordination with middle school staff for future occupation when it gets closer to implementing IT technology, FF&E, furniture and equipment, really the fit out of the project, all those components. They'll be doing a series of drawing reviews as we approach the final phases of design here in the coming months as we prepare to go to bid, and also doing a cost estimating verification with the design team so that you'll sort of have multiple cost estimates just to verify where we are status with the project. Next slide, slide 6. Management of online construction administration. Nowadays we're documenting everything online so that everybody, whether it be contractors, the district, design team, we can have access to submittals, requests for information, RFIs, pay applications, conflict resolution, closeout, as-built compilation drawings, which all takes quite amount of time to be managing that. And construction manager typically that will be in the RFP as some of their services. That also becomes very critical for your physical plant team at the end of the process, that they have a strong documentation of what occurred throughout the project, and then you have that for future years. Whether you're trying to, for instance, know where a pipe is or an underground, whatever, a system or a sprinkler or IT, that's all documented for your district to have throughout the future, not just during construction. Okay. So construction management, typically we're looking at over the next 2 weeks, and then we would be bringing that in the next month or two for the board to approve the final selection of the construction manager. So really open it up for any questions that you might have for me.
Should note as well that commissioning RFP will also be going out about pretty close to the same time. So required by code.
Okay. And Mike, I would assume we anticipated this, and this is part of our budgeting
We did.
for the project.
We did.
Just,
We did.
yeah, just to clarify.
We
for the
felt as
public
though,
and
like
board members.
Jeff said, Mount Denny Elementary, we were kind of able to handle in-house. This is a much larger bite to try to handle. So
Yeah. Okay. Peter?
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you very much, Mike. For I guess the scoring for the RFP, how will you include experience with lead-related projects or lead projects as part of scoring and ranking of the construction managers? Because you guys know, there are a few different credits under 2 different categories where their experience can really matter in making sure, meeting 2 prerequisites, for example. So I'm just wondering how that's going to be incorporated.
Jeff.
Good question, Peter. I don't know that I specifically thought about that as we are finalizing the RFP. That's something that we can add to the mix. We are notifying everybody that obviously we are going for lead certification and that they will be heavily involved in that process. I will note your past construction manager was very, very proactive for that. So we'll make sure to highlight that in the RFP.
Yeah.
And as we wrap it up, we're actually going to have some follow-up discussion with Randy and Mike. And part of what I mentioned was I want to make sure that we document correctly what your facilities department is looking for at the end of the project. That we know the construction manager will provide that to the district.
Yeah. And just so that I'm clear with the board and members of the public, under the lead scorecard, there are sustainable sites and materials and resources. Those both have prerequisites that have to do with the construction activities itself. And then they both have credits on the protection or restoration of habitat. The board has expressed interest in that. Whether it ends up in the design and like a final scorecard is yet to be determined. And then there is construction and demolition waste management, which is not a prerequisite, but may be important too. So, thanks.
Ann?
I just wanted to thank you for your statement that even though it looked like we could fit a 5th tennis court, which I was really hoping for, unfortunately, we cannot. I just wanted you to say that one more time, that you really tried to kind of find the way to fit that 5th tennis court, but because of the grading, it's not possible.
Yes, correct, Dan. In fact, we really struggled to get from 3 to 4 tennis courts. It's not that we didn't want to include it, but the slopes are incredibly difficult on this site with everything that we're trying to include with the new school. So it's really taken not just a couple weeks, but frankly, a month or 2 for us to be able to make the grades work and bring those to you this evening. So thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate your extra effort to try and respond to the community on that. Thanks so much.
I'm glad you asked that question because it reminded me one that I had that I forgot. So, Jeff, in thinking about the outdoor space that middle school students use, I think Mount Nittany has some basketball hoops and things. Will that be something that might be part of like the bus section? Since like in looking at the space that's available, we don't have any place to put any kind of asphalt location for activities, but I would guess we would be able to use the bus parking.
That's what we were looking at currently, kind of to model Mount Nittany Middle. However, there is the lane of traffic that goes through there, so that's still a challenge that we're working through.
Okay, great. That's helpful to hear. It was just one of the things I didn't check off in my mind that I saw. So great. I appreciate that work too. Any other questions from board members about construction management or changes to suggestions for the RFP? Okay. All right. Thanks so much, Jeff, for joining us tonight.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
You
Bye.
too. All right. Our last item for information reports is going to be discussion of policy 121 field trips. revisions, returning back from a previous visit to this topic. So Michelle Simpson's going to join us along with Danielle Yoder and Jonathan Bucher, our assistant superintendents, to hash this one out.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As you know, we have had a lot of conversation about this field trip policy. It was revised first in February, I believe. We looked at it at the PDC, and then it was represented to the committee at the March meeting, and then was presented for IND in April, and it is back on the agenda tonight for information and discussion. We did receive some email information about the policy since we posted it for information and discussion, so we are here for questions and clarification.
Jonathan, do you want to, before we start on questions from the board, I know you did some additional research, a little bit about what other districts are doing in this regard, and so I think that might be helpful for the public to hear and the board.
Yeah, so we wanted to try to make sure that we gave this as much attention as we could. Reached out to the Principals Association, and many other things we've reached out prior, the Principals Association, and they sent an email out on our behalf to all 500 school districts across the state of Pennsylvania to ask the specific question if anyone had any feedback, policies, or procedures on how to address our concerns related to seniors who have graduated on international trips. That brought back 2 schools that responded back to that email listserv. One school shared that they allow graduated seniors to attend as chaperones once they turn 25. Their concern was that there's a maturity level between having somebody that just graduated, because that was one of the things we were looking at. Can a graduating senior magically become a chaperone the next day? So they had said that they don't do that for maturity reasons, typically within their district. Another school, which was a large cyber school, they had said that they do that. They had major concerns with liability. And I'll use their words exactly. They said they are no longer marketing trips to seniors, only juniors and the younger students. So that was a large cyber school that recognized that concern. Brought that back to the committee, and the committee said, we want to know more. So we reached out to I called 10 colleagues in about 9 different counties. Anyone I could think of was a superintendent or high school principal, and reach out to them, and really did not get much additional information from that. One district did say that they let their students at 18 go, but they do have concerns with the maturity as well. So that's really what we've done to try to get more information about that, and seeing what else, and if there's some magic that somebody has to make this happen for our students.
Appreciate that. I know you guys, put in a lot of time. And Michelle, can you remind me and the rest of us, these were also part of PSBA's evaluation and recommendations. So that's our state school board association.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just want to say that out loud tonight as we
You're right.
perhaps come close to wrapping this all up, that all the different things we've explored and the advice we've received. Ann, go ahead. Oh, sure.
Because not everyone may have heard all of the committee conversations or the last time we brought it to the board. Like, I understand that you reached out to other people, but can you just explain again what the concern is with having graduated seniors go on international trips, and why that concern is different for an international trip versus a domestic trip?
So some of the concerns, as mentioned in public comment, is the drinking age. But that's a lesser of the two. Is the larger concern with our protecting our students once they graduate. They're no longer we have no purview over the person that's graduated. Some of the concerns that also came up were when we're in other countries, there's different legal systems that we may not be familiar with. I'm not familiar with the legal system of the Czech Republic or Italy or so forth. And also in those systems, there's a different language. There's a language aspect as far as if something were to happen with the police or the legal systems. If our student were to engage in something, we would not want our students to engage in, where we would have some concerns with students there. Also, we're not really sure about the implications of Title IX in application of Title IX as a federal law. That was also another layer, as our duty is to protect our students. So if we have a graduated student in the maturity level coupled with them, other underclassmen on the same trip. So that was some of the bigger concerns that were outlined.
So if I could just ask a quick follow-up, with respect to the concerns about, different legal systems in other countries, I'm not understanding why whether or not the student has graduated is the concern. That seems to be maybe more of an age thing if they're over the age of 18. Like why is our concern about the legal system in another country different for a student who has graduated from high school than for a student who has not graduated?
A student that's able to engage in legal drinking or whatever might find themselves in the legal system in a different way than a student who is not of age.
But that's an age thing. That's not a graduation thing.
It's definitely an age thing.
But we're not saying you can't go if you're 18, but you haven't graduated. So that's what I'm trying to understand.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand the question.
So if they haven't graduated, they're still under our jurisdiction. So there's still ramifications when they return back to the school. There's still disciplinary actions that we can take. If they graduated, there's no ramification, no discipline, there's nothing that we can do as a school district here other than send them home. And when we send them home, that also uses chaperones and time, and the chaperones should be with, we have 15-to-1 chaperones. So if they're doing something else with this one student to get them to the airport or whatever, there's still other students that they need to be chaperoning. So it's also a matter of supervision and convenience and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah,
now realize if you want to accept the liability of having these students go, I mean, we can do that.
I hear the word liability, but I'm not sure I'm understanding what the liability is. Because again, if we're concerned about how the student or graduated student is going to navigate a legal system in another country, that seems to be an age concern. And as much as I would like to provide the extra support, and I wouldn't want to leave those, for want of a better word, kids hanging if they are 18 and graduated and legally adults in the US, and they did something that the trip we said they weren't allowed to do when we send them home. I'm not sure that we have to send a chaperone with a legal adult to the airport to get them home, right? Like, does that make sense? Like, if they're a legal adult, like, I'd like to provide that, but
they're still our responsibility because we sent them over there.
Yeah.
They're with our we
group.
can't reduce our liability just because they're 18.
Okay, so then we're still liable for them even though they're an adult.
Yes.
So I think
because they're on our trip.
Yeah, we're setting parameters to protect our students. So sometimes if it's student to recent graduate, I think we're putting ourselves in a pretty awkward situation where we are tasked to protect our kids, and we're choosing to send somebody where there may be harm that could occur, where then it's our liability because we sent that student or graduated student, and may be student-to-student issue.
And so explain to me again why that's different domestically versus internationally. Because I'm just clearly not getting it, and I know you've told me before, and I still come back to not quite understanding it.
The largest challenge I think that we have is a lot of, I'll give an example for FFA. They purposely have their state convention after students graduate, so students across the state can all meet together. It would be very difficult to start eliminating domestically our students when these organizations have these things intentionally set up so students can participate. I think with these trips, what I would like to point out is that we're not saying that they can't go to Europe. We're not saying they can't go to Italy. We're just saying go before you graduate. So there may be a request that they choose a different festival to compete in, that they travel during school, not once they graduate.
My understanding from a couple people in the music community is that it's very hard to do these types of trips in the spring because of all of the state level and US level, right? PMEA, Pennsylvania Music Educators Association, like there's always at least one of those competitions that's over spring break. So that's a time, and then it continues basically throughout the end of the school year. So I think you'd still run into some of the same issues. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying like that's a logistical issue. So if we're saying, well, you can do the international trip, it just has to be at a different time, I think the pushback you're gonna hear is it's hard to find another time that doesn't interfere with these culminating events for their particular activity that happen in the spring. It's not to say they can't do a domestic trip after graduation. I know there's a draw to international. I'm just trying to understand and share some of the feedback that I've also heard from the community. So I'll stop talking now, though.
Peter?
Well, I think Ann and then maybe.
Yeah, and I know Gretchen, you have your hand raised as well, so we'll get to everybody.
Okay, all right. The problem with 18-year-olds who have graduated going on one of these trips and doing something where they land themselves in a legal quagmire in the Czech Republic or Italy or anywhere. How many times has that happened?
I've been here 2 years, so I can't answer that question.
How many times has it happened in the last 2 years?
I'm not aware
Of any?
of any.
Okay. Are people who are 18 and have graduated able to sign a document that has them assume responsibility that is different from an 18-year-old who is still enrolled in the school district? So my son, for example, graduated in June and then went this year with the Master Singers to Italy. And Mr. Matthews, who spoke earlier, like I think they met each other. So under this, he would not be able to go. So, I mean, personally, I don't really like that very much, like that's my family. There are a bunch of, his friends, and, sometimes 18-year-olds do not the smartest things, as, our own lives, I'm sure, will attest. They're also adults and can be expected to act like them. And I think that this stinks. I think this piece of this, just is not good. And people have been school districts have taken on this kind of liability for a really long time, and I see no reason to change it. I would like this part removed.
As a point of clarification, though, Jonathan did do the research that found that schools in Pennsylvania are actually, am I right? Are they not doing this?
Some are doing it with concern, and the ones that I spoke to are discontinuing it due to the liability.
Because, I mean, I think as the chair of PDC, we've gone back and forth trying to find options that allow this to occur. So I really appreciate hearing from the parents, and I think that we're trying to find a liability answer that addresses that issue. As from someone who took university students to Washington, D.C., and had an experience where I had to show up at a precinct, I have a little bit of a different experience. So I'm a data set of one, but they were adults, and I still showed up at like 2 at the precinct. So I think that that's a lot to ask. And so I think that I understand your concern, I understand the parents' concern, But I do think just because it hasn't happened here doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And it is a very, it not good and ruins the trip. And it does. And I was just going from DC to New York. So are you sure, like, can you give us a number of, like, the number of school districts that are doing it? Because I think it's important for us to know if we're going to be an outlier on this, then I'm not sure I feel comfortable with it, even as I wish we had the magic wand and kept trying to find solutions. And I do appreciate, I know you've done due diligence. You know, I know one of the parents was a lawyer. Maybe he has some fantastic magic solution. I think we want a magic solution, but I actually can't, like, leave the table without addressing that the liability issue is maybe more than what we're thinking just in this discussion. I don't know if the Title IX is another thing in relationship to drinking. I know that the 18-year-old, and the drinking really was a primary point in our discussions in policy, but I did want to raise from someone who had to go to the precinct, what's that like?
And before you answer further, I just, it's maybe difficult for us to compare ourselves to other districts in the state, just in the sense that there are many districts who can't manage sending their students to overseas trips. Like, it may not be very relevant for them. We're incredibly privileged that we have programs and the capacity and, frankly, families that can afford to send their kids on international trips. This is a unique privilege. And it's a wonderful experience for the students that have gone in the past. But again, it is, an above and beyond type of situation. And I don't think it's wrong to keep that in mind. Did you want to answer anything else from what Ann said?
Yeah, to answer your question, we sent an email to 500 school districts, which would mean multiple principals. I only got 2 responses, so I can't answer the question. I can tell you that the majority of the people that I spoke to were shocked that we allow it, but it may go back to the unique privilege that we have in our community.
And again, I bring up that experience only to say that that is a possibility and that I wish we had a magic wand. I really am still looking for it. So.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Jackie?
Can you tell me what PSBA recommended for, like, was this the recommendation for the policy, or were they silent on this, or?
This is where it came from, was PSBA.
So this was their recommendation? We started with the PSBA recommendation. Okay, thank you. It just wasn't clear to me, so thank you very much.
Did they have examples of why this policy was necessary? If PSBA recommended it, like, did they give it? Because I'm still looking for examples, either in the state or really anywhere, of it. It's hard for me not to think that this is a solution looking for a problem without evidence of a problem. And I understand the concept of liability, and I think I've said this before in policy, we've had this discussion. The other question I would ask, though, is which groups of people and which units does this affect? Because it sounds like FFA is fine, sports are probably fine. There's really only one group of people who seems to be affected, and that sounds like it's music. If that's not true, if there are international trips for foreign languages, that's maybe a different story.
Yeah, so it is world languages and it is music that all have trips.
So I want to clarify, those are programs that are currently doing that. So, but we as a board have to plan for, our job is to plan for any eventuality. So we make decisions based on whether that particular action is wise and safe for our school district. We can't decide it based on a particular program, because it could be some other, some other program in the future. So I do want to caution us to think about the way that we're tasked with making decisions. At least that's my perspective. Gretchen had her hand raised at the beginning, and I don't want to neglect her before going around to second terms with people. So Gretchen, did you want to speak to this issue?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. A lot of what other people have said, I agree with. Everything Peter said, the points that Aaron brought up, and what I'm wondering is, and Peter brought this up, but if it's liability, then why couldn't we like have these graduated students, since they're 18, they're legal adults, sign something saying that they will not rely on the school district to help them should they get into legal trouble abroad? Which brings me to my next question, which is, have we consulted with an international attorney who deals with these kinds of things in other countries and could tell us if this is necessary or not? I think that they would know better than PSBA would know. And then the other question I had was another that I think Peter already brought up, but I have never heard of any legal issue happening abroad since I moved to State College in 1999. And so I'm wondering where this came from, other than PSBA. Has something happened that the board was never told about? Is this a problem in our community that our graduated students are going on SCASD trips internationally and getting into legal trouble and we just don't know about it? And I also, going back to what Aaron said, is this a problem looking for a solution? But going back to what Ann said, if it truly is a liability issue and this is why some people feel the need to do something about it, then why couldn't we just do what Peter suggested, which is have them sign saying that they will not rely on the school district for any help, and then there would be no legal liability. So thank you.
Randy, is this relevant to our insurance? Like, would this be I hate to spring that on you, but as Gretchen raises the question of where and why would it come from, that occurs to me that this could be have an impact, that some insurance companies require you to do certain things, or you have to
We have
pay
special
more.
insurance for when we have students that go on international trips such as this. However, obviously with any time you have a claim, your experience is modified and then your costs go up.
But they don't have any particular stipulations as to the staff.
I have not received any stipulation yet.
Okay.
But
That you're aware of.
that I'm aware of, correct.
Okay.
But Scott, I mean, I think that there's been some questions that have been asked that you could advise on.
Certainly,
Is you on? Are you on?
certainly a person who has reached the age of majority, had their 18th birthday, is legally competent to sign a prospective release and authorization, so you could do that with them. I would say, though, in my lengthy tenure with the district, there have been more than a handful of times where I've been approached and we've talked about having prospective waivers signed as a condition of participating in some activity or program, whatever it might be. And the district uniformly has said, we do not want to be in a position where we require our students to sign waivers to participate in our programs. So you can do that. It would be contrary to what your general practice has been. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it in this context, but it's something to consider. I've been listening to the term liability, and certainly there could be situations where there would be legal liability. I think the better term is responsibility. We're taking on a responsibility with students who go on these various trips, and someone who misbehaves, violates the rules of the trips, and gets escorted to the airport to get a ride home. I don't think of that so much as a concern about liability, but a question of responsibility, getting them there and getting them safely in some location where they can return home appropriately. As far as my perspective, I quite honestly I can't recall a situation where on an international trip we've had, CJ, as a longtime high school principal, I'm certain you had situations where domestic trips, where I can think of a handful of circumstances on domestic trips, and not necessarily the 18-year-olds and not necessarily for those who had already gone through the graduation process.
Can you answer another question for me? PSBA usually changes policy based on litigation that has occurred in most cases. I'm wondering if we could reach out to PSBA to find out what litigation resulted in the change of this policy.
Yeah, Danielle and I were just talking about that. So the way the PSBA policy is presented to us, it does have links to all the changes in the laws and suggested language that comes first to the policy committee. Because this came back in February and it's been through so many rewrites, we would have to go back and look to check that and then confirm at that point. Because what we have right here has been revised multiple times, and language may have been added that wasn't original, like we have to go back and check. And I think that we should start with that original PSBA policy and see where we have arrived to this point.
I think certainly some changes are motivated by case law and changes in statutes, rules, and regulations. But the guidance, the PSBA policy service is a living organization, and I think they regularly go through their policies. Some of these changes are language edits and otherwise. And whether this one was motivated by a lawsuit or a series of lawsuits, I don't know, and Michelle can find out. But I think many of their changes are just upon reflection of the policy and their thought process and a possibility of something happening. I'm not aware generally, it's certainly something reported in the popular press of more recent cases where we've had some prominent international incident on a student trip after school.
Jesse?
All I was going to say is that unless we find something like that that's really convincing, I'm leaning toward voting against this change.
Peter?
Yeah, I don't want to leave the table without saying, I understand that you had that experience, and I don't want to not address that experience. Last year, there was a student from another Big Ten university who went to the Conference of Parties in Azerbaijan, which is an authoritarian state where you don't want to end up in the police station, and they did. And that was a big headache for the delegation that was there. So I don't want to discount what you're saying. We're not in the habit of going to dictatorships in the State College Area School District, which is good. The violation of human rights of a student is pretty low. That doesn't mean that it wouldn't be hard, right, for folks. But going back to what I think Mr. Matthews said is that he encouraged parents to go as chaperones also, and encouraged us to not include this. And I think that both of those things matter. And I think that there's a decision on the part of the people who end up being chaperones, whether they want to be chaperones. And we take on that responsibility. I've been with undergraduates and graduate students in a foreign country too. I didn't have something like this happen, but I think that's that individual's decision too.
I would just say that this is an informational item, and we bring it to the board for guidance, whose the board's role is to create policy. So we're seeking direction to where we need to go from here.
Jackie?
Yeah, so just in the interest of gathering more information, since I don't have any high schoolers and I don't know a lot about the program that's specifically being addressed, does this, and I understand there's more beyond the Italy trip that the music program does, but does that trip happen every year? So there are students who are not seniors also participating in that program on the regular. So it's not like it's like this rite of passage where everyone gets to graduate as a senior and then go to Italy. It just depends on like where it falls in the cycle kind of thing of whether when you get to go.
I think it's every 3 years.
My understanding from the information we collected from the coordinators, this trip occurs every 3 years, and it occurred last summer, this just a few months ago or weeks ago.
So there are plenty of students who are in that program, are not graduating seniors and attending that overseas trip.
Yes.
Correct.
And there are also people in that program who are graduating seniors who don't get to go on that trip as a graduating senior because there's no trip that year.
Correct.
Correct.
But they presumably, not always, had an opportunity. My understanding, having had a music student who actually didn't get a chance to go because of COVID, but that's another thing, like that's a trip that didn't go, is that they do the cycle every 3 years, so that presumably most students who go through the program and are participating every year have one opportunity, at least one, to go. That's why they do a little bit why they do the rotation. They don't do it every year, but they do it every 3, so that hopefully there's not a cohort of kids that goes through and never has the opportunity to go. But with this change, there would be.
Because generally also freshmen are pretty rare within these ensemble groups as well.
I think that's true, because again, I don't have a current student in it, and I'm not, an expert on this, but I believe the ensembles that go are all of the auditioned ensembles. And so you have to at least, you audition in your freshman year to be in the ensemble as a sophomore, or you audition, right? So there's no way for the 8th graders to audition and be in the ensemble in 9th grade. So generally speaking, the freshmen are not in it. That may not be completely true, though, because some of them start in the spring.
I know they got a little in the weeds, but thank you. That really helps me understand.
Could we
And
maybe
I
ask-
apologize if I got any of that wrong.
I was gonna say, could we maybe ask the music directors to come and tell us about the trips and tell us how it went? Like what are their concerns? Because they're the ones going on the trips, right? They're the ones who are chaperoning. I guess I'm curious to hear from them, because in the conversations I've had with them, just kind of off the cuff, it sounds like they don't understand the reason for this, and they also have some concerns about the quality of the ensemble that they can take with them if they're not taking their senior students. So I mean, that's like a unique situation for them, and I think if we understood that going into the policy, that would be helpful. I mean, I guess my other question, looking at the languages, can we just defer their date of graduation? Like, let's push it 3 weeks and hand them their diploma later? I mean, I don't.
That's amazing.
It seems like a pretty straightforward. Never mind. Okay.
I had sent some questions of a different nature to Jeannie, and those are all like kind of more semantics and logistical, some form questions. And so if we're having this on hold, I know we'll have time to circle back to those. So there's no need to really get into those details. I'm certainly happy to hear more about the structure and how things, that's cycling from the music teachers. And I think stakeholder engagement is really important. I also think that it's administrators and the board's job to evaluate and make these types of decisions, because our job is to come at it from a different lens, and the music teachers understandably are coming at it from the kids' experiences and wanting the most ultimate wonderful experience for kids, and I want that too, but we wear a different hat for a different reason, and so I think it's really important to keep that in mind.
I think it's fine to get all the information when you put that hat on too. So
Absolutely. Didn't I just say that I would be more than happy for them to come? I absolutely did.
then you talk about making a decision independent of that information.
No, I said
that's
from
my
with a
concern.
different lens. That's not what I said.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we're on hold probably. The question, I think coming back, our best bet is probably still to come back as to the full board for info discussion. I think iterating at PDC is not going to be as complete as we need anyway. So you'll let us know when you feel like you've been able to get some of that information from PSBA and other things, and we can see when it might fall on a future agenda. Are there any other pieces of information that the board has requests of administration? Okay. Thanks very much.
Policy Committee meeting tomorrow?
Policy Committee meeting is tomorrow. I'll announce that with future meetings. Of course, this will not be on that meeting. There will be other items, just to clarify. So next on the agenda, we have an opportunity for board members to share updates on their committee initiatives. I know with it being summer, there may not have been some of these, so just say pass or whatever when I get to you if you don't have anything to share. Central Intermediate Unit, Ann or Jackie?
I actually did want to make an official statement of thank you. Jackie stepped down as the vice president of the Central Intermediate Unit and was a really wonderful leader. She was the vice president when I started, and if I could tell you the amount of impact she's had on that organization, she's going to be tomorrow at 8:30 on the facilities, and she's just been a really wonderful advocate for kids and for school districts, and I just wanted to say thank you to you. So.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm not surprised to hear all those wonderful things, so I'm sure it'll be a loss, but you're still sticking around with the IU for now, and I'm sure you'll be a great mentor to whoever steps into that role. SCASD Ed Foundation, Deb, you guys had a meeting recently, I think?
Yes, so I am the new SCASD Education Foundation liaison, I don't know.
Yeah, liaison.
Representative from the board. We had a meeting. I guess two main things that happened. There was a approval of engaging Baker Tilly for the audits, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Yeah, I was looking for you, Randy. I said, Randy's going to shake his head for me. And then there's a new program that I guess the funding was approved through the foundation prior, but some more details came from Lauren Crispell about introducing an elementary IM basketball program. And that was pretty exciting to hear about. And I think it's going to start with 4th and 5th graders. No promises about it extending into other grades, but that was a conversation, but to at least start with 4th and 5th graders. And then, some general sort of brainstorming about other things that the foundation might be willing to fundraise for. And that was mostly it.
Okay, thanks. CTC Local Advisory Committee, Carlene's not here. Aaron, do you have anything to share?
Not about CTC specifically, but many of the students involved in CTC and the ag program are presenting, they're showing off a lot of the projects that they've been working on through the year and through the summer at Grange Fair. I've heard a couple requests that we, have some district representation just come out to see, take some pictures, talk to the kids. So I think that would be really cool. I suspect Ben Morden will be out there at some point. So, but just want to give a shout out to those kids. We have a meeting coming up, I think, in September.
Yeah, I think you guys have visited at least the last couple years for Grange, or at least I know Ben was there, yeah.
Yes, we have a plan. We're visiting this Friday to see all the ag students who have animals on display, so.
Yeah, so board members have accompanied them in the past, so if you're free on Friday, I'm sure administration can coordinate with you when they'll be there.
Yes.
Great. Next up, we have citizen advisory committees. Carlene's not here tonight. I'm not sure athletics even met. They're prepping, I'm sure, for the school year. Facilities is Peter and I, but we have not had a CAC meeting since the last time we did reports. I don't believe we've had finance either. Okay, I see heads shaking. Health and safety, not yet. I didn't think so either. And technology.
We have a new member. He's here tonight. Wave, new member for technology. That's Benji. So yeah, okay, yay. So we lost to Dan, we gained to Benji. We're hoping to gain more people. If any other board members want to do technology, let me know.
All right. Okay. So that concludes board reports and our agenda for this evening. Looking ahead to future meetings, we have tomorrow, as Michelle mentioned, August 19th is Policy Development Committee. That'll be at 1:30 here in the Panorama Village Boardroom. September 9th is Committee of the Whole regular board meeting at 7 p.m. at Panorama Village here. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. Have a good evening, everyone.